everyone. I'm Frank McCourt's daughter, Maggie, and thank you so much for coming here to remember my father. My father used to say to me when I was a little kid, "Who is the most handsome, charming, and intelligent father?" I would respond, "Vicky Spencer's dad." Bart Spencer was a respectable investment banker type. He was tall, had blonde hair, blue eyes, nice white teeth, always wore a suit and tie, and he was normal. Or so I thought. I found out years later that he had a midlife crisis, quit his job, and ran off to a Greek island to become a bartender. My father was an odd one. He would do things like sing when we were walking down the street. He would try his best to get me to join in, and I would get mad and say, "If you don't stop, I'm going to walk ahead and pretend that I don't know you." It was a small neighborhood that I grew up in Brooklyn Heights, and surely someone that I knew would see us. I went to Packer Collegiate Institute, a private school in Brooklyn Heights, which my mother insisted that I go to. The Heights Casino was a club nearby on Montague Street that many of my friends attended. In 7th grade, I decided to sign up and take formal dancing lessons there. On one particular day, all of the girls were asked to bring their fathers to practice what we had learned. I dreaded that day because I knew what was in store for me. All I remember was how each father and daughter got up in turn and followed the dance moves perfectly and mechanically. Just before we were up, I muttered under my breath, "Please act normal." He did his best to stop himself, but in the end, he had me dancing wildly around the room. My best friend, Claire Ficara, who, by the way, is here tonight, used to tell me how lucky I was to have such a crazy Irish dad. She was the youngest of 6 children, and I was an only child. She would say to me, "Even though your dad is a little on the strange side, at least you get to spend a lot of time with him, and he likes to tell stories." Tell stories he did. Claire wished that her dad told stories like that, and I wished that my dad was like hers, a respectable Italian who knew how to make cheesecake. So that's how it went. I took poor old Frank McCourt for granted with all his crazy songs, stories, and various other antics. I just wanted a nice, proper, middle-class dad who could drop me off at parties and shake the hands of other proper young men and their fathers while saying, "Nice to meet you," in a deep, gruff voice, and other predictable phrases like that. But no, not Frank McCourt. He was a loaded cannon, ready to go off at any time. Boom. No such luck for me. The poor daughter. My father was who he was. Accept it and live with it. There was no changing this madman. How was I to know that all of this craziness would one day pay off? That he would write a book called Angela's Ashes, and that the world would recognize what a strange bunch this McCourt clan is? Who would have thought? Certainly not Frank himself. Well, it turns out, Dad, that people from everywhere loved hearing about your miserable childhood. I guess normal may not have been such a good thing in your case. It's taken me a while, but that's the revelation. And in retrospect, I don't think he was looking for fame. I think that he was simply hoping that someone would want to listen to his stories. His students at Stuyvesant High School certainly did. I remember sitting in on some of his classes with Claire. He would stand up on his desk and get very dramatic. He liked to call on the students who least expected to be called on. "Tell me a story about something," he would say. Oftentimes, they felt totally put on the spot. "I can't think of one," they would say, or no one would be interested. "Everyone has a story," he would assure them. "Start with what you had for dinner last night." He would drag stories out of the most serious and quiet students. He would say the most ridiculous things in an effort to make them laugh. As their teacher, he let them know that he cared about their lives, that they too were not ordinary, that each and every one of them was extraordinary. Having taught 5 classes a day for 30 years, he became an icon at Stuyvesant High School. Students whispered about him in the hallway. "I got Frank McCourt for second period English." He became the creative writing teacher that everyone wanted. In future years, he would not be able to go anywhere without running into one of his former students. Mr. McCourt, it's Joe DeAgnes. I had you for 5th period English back in 1978. Half the time, he couldn't remember them, but it would always spark an interesting conversation. Teaching, he told me, was the most important thing that he ever did in his life, besides being a father. Obviously, he didn't become a teacher because of the salary. He did it because he was passionate about it, and because it gave him an opportunity to touch so many people's lives. When inquiring one day about what path I should take in my own career, he said to me, "Do what you love and the money will follow." He also said to me that it's our job to figure out what our life purpose is, that a life without purpose is a big waste of time. Another thing he used to say to me was, "I'm going to say something very important, and I want you to listen, but I doubt that you will. The young never listen to the old, and that's the problem." I would nod my head and act like I was listening, and then I would go off half-cocked and do as I pleased, just as he predicted. "Well, Dad, even though you are dead, you'll never really be gone. You'll remain immortal because of your books, and I will remember all those little things that you said to me, and I'll keep an account for the younger generation so that they can run off and do as they pleased and come back to me one day to tell me that you were right. All of your words of wisdom actually mean something to me now, Dad. If I could sum up all the little lessons that you taught me on your brief and meaningful journey on this planet, it would be this: that gratitude and kindness are 2 of the most important qualities a person can possess. You had both. That perhaps normal isn't so great. Look at what happened to Vicki Spencer's dad. That we are only here for a short period of time, so each and every one of us should make the best of it. Your life was a testimony to that. So, Dad, I won't bore the crowd by rambling on and on. You told Ellen that you didn't even want a funeral or a memorial. How could we do that? How could the world not remember you? You are the kindest, sweetest, loveliest person that I could have ever hoped for as a dad. The best grandfather Frankie, Kiara, and Jack could have hoped for, and I'm so glad that the children got to know you. We will always love you, we will always miss you, and we will always remember you.